that is called pollination. So pollination means transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma. So pollination means we can say the transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma is called pollination. So pollination are divided into two broad categories. One is self pollination, another is cross pollination. Self means by a single plant. If we so a pen, suppose this is a plant and it bears same type of means it bears the flower which contain the anther or pollen grain, and on the same plant it also bear the egg or the female flower, means two type of flower born in the same plant, or within a plant same flower contain the two type of pollen grain. It means egg is present, the flower contain egg as well as pollen grain. So this is the bisexual flower, or a plant which carry two type of flower. One flower is contain the pollen grain and another flower is contain the egg. So this is how it is called self pollination, and another is cross pollination. In cross pollination there is two types of plant. Suppose this is a plant and I am showing this is another plant of the same species, and these two plants bear two different types of flower. One plant is bear a male flower and this plant is bear a female flower, and the pollen grain is transferred from the male flower to the female and pollination is occur. Then we call them it is a cross pollination. By doing the cross pollination or to happen cross pollination, it requires the agency, means the agents means these are the ant, bat, etc. There is many pollinating agents are there which are comes to sit on the male flower as well as the female flower, and finally they transfer the pollen grain from anther to the stigma, and this is called somehow cross pollination. So now I am explaining the self pollination, because today we are going to discuss broadly about self pollination. So what is self pollination? So self pollination means transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of the same flower. So you just imagine that it is a flower and it is a flower which contain anther, means it carry the pollen grain as well as the stigma style and ovary, which the ovary contain the egg, means the same flower which contain the pollen grain as well as the egg. If the pollen grain of the same flower fall on the stigma of the same plant and fertilization is occur, then we call them it is self pollination. So in self pollination, we are seeing that the some advantage as well as some disadvantage. So the advantage is there is not much produce the amount of pollen grain. The flower size is not large or soy, because it do not require that, because the pollen grain is fall on the same flower of the stigma, so it do not require to increase the size of the flower or do not attractive the flower. These are the advantages, and the disadvantage of the self pollination is if we see that there is reduction in the vigor. Vigor means hybrid quality, because there is no two different type of plant. So within the same plant or within the same flower the pollination is takes place. So it happens or it found that there is no genetic diversity. So the genetic diversity is lost. These are the disadvantages. So genetic diversity is lost, and the gene which are present, which are quality is going to be reduced in that self-pollinated plants. So this pollination, self-pollination is divided in broadly two types. One is autogamy, another is geitonogamy. Autogamy means auto means self. So self pollination is self. But what happens here? The flower is self, means this is a suppose flower. Within the same flower, the anther is present as well as the egg is present. Means the pollen grain is present and as well as the egg is present. So within the same flower, If pollination is takes place, then it is called autogamy. Autogamy means within a same flower, the transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma. Then we call them autogamy. If we discuss the geitonogamy, you just imagine that a single plant which bear two type of branches. One branch bear the flower which carry the pollen grain, and another branch bear the flower which carry the female flower plant. Or these flower are female flower. Some branch produce male flower. So the branch which produce male flower, from that branch, the flower pollen grain is transferred to the another flower which is present within the same plant. Then we call them geitonogamy. So geitonogamy means it very clearly we understand that within the same plant, two different type of flower is produced. One is male, another is female. Within the male flower, the pollen grain is coming and pollen the stigma of the another flower, which is present in the same plant. Then we call them it is geitonogamy. So the two broad category within the cell pollination. I think you like this video. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel Rajiv Biology and share it. Meet you in the next session of the cross pollination. Thank you.